You suddenly wake up as a little kid back in Foosha Village, but you've got all your future memories and those god-tier hockey abilities completely intact. You are Monkey D. Luffy, but you've got the mind, the battle experience, and the overwhelming strength of an emperor of the sea trapped in a child's body. Now, your initial instinct might be to lay low, not mess with the timeline too much. You kind of just want to enjoy this precious time with Garp, Dodon, Ace, and Sabo. But the very second Shanks arrives on the island, the temptation to step in and change things is just too strong.
And just like that, you instantly change history. I mean, instead of being this helpless kid who needs rescuing, you just use your hotkey to utterly obliterate the mountain bandits all on your own. Because of this, Shanks never loses his arm saving you. But obviously, Shanks is pretty suspicious now. Like, how does a literal kid know advanced hotkey? So to prove your crazy time travel story, you show him your awakened devil fruit, your Gear 5 Nika form. Shanks is absolutely floored. But seeing your power, he believes you, hands over his iconic straw hat, and sets the stage for a completely different adventure.
Fast forward a bit to you setting sail at 17. You essentially speedrun the entire East Blue, relying heavily on your meta knowledge. You go to Shell's Town and recruit Zoro super early, you hit Orange Town, and the second the buggy pirates sense your overwhelming strength, they literally surrender on the spot. At Syrup Village, you let Usopp build a little confidence, but then you just casually knock out Kuro with a quick burst of haki. And Arlong? You don't even bother with Conqueror's haki, you make it a point to absolutely humiliate him and beat him barehanded, just explaining why he should be a lot more like Jinbei.
But there's a catch. Your overwhelming power brings a pretty massive unintended consequence. Because you're leaning so heavily on Conqueror's haki to just instantly clear out these early threats, you draw major attention from the Marines. Observers see you throwing around this Emperor-level power, so you end up securing a massive 200 million berry first bounty right out of the gate. Smoker is forced to call for huge reinforcements in Logatown, though. You still easily slip away with a little silent help from your dad, Dragon. Moving on to the next phase, a breeze through paradise, where we skip the hard parts.
So your path is now wildly different from the original. You completely bypass Reverse Mountain, choosing instead to safely sail right through the Calm Belt by just intimidating the Sea Kings with your haki. When Nami falls sick, you don't bother trekking up Drum Island through the freezing snow. Nope, you just use Gear 4 Boundman to literally bounce up the mountain and grab Chopper. In Alabasta, you use Future Sight to effortlessly dodge Crocodile's traps, humiliating him before the Civil War even really kicks off. And Skypiea, you literally one-shot Enel, ring the Golden Bell, and wrap up a 400-year war in, what, an afternoon?
But here is where that ripple effect starts getting kinda dark. You encounter Admiral Aokiji, but when he sees you transform into Gear 5, he just backs off, deciding it's way too much effort. Because of this, and your foresight to take down CP9 super easily in Water 7 right in front of Iceberg, Robin is never captured. Now that sounds great, right? Actually, scratch that. It's a huge problem. It means you never take the sea train, you never go to Eni's lobby, you never declare war on the world government with your crew, and worst of all, you never bond with Frankie. Despite your absolute best efforts to recruit him, without that shared trauma and triumph, he just flat out refuses to join. He stays behind.
Let's move to a crucial turning point, saving your brother and bypassing the ultimate war.
You head straight for Impel Down, days earlier than you did originally. Since Boa Hancock isn't around to help this time, you infiltrate the underwater prison completely solo. The only real threat down there is Magellan, but you easily bypass his deadly poison by just turning it into rubber or dodging it in Gear 5. You dive into the depths, find Ace way before his execution date, free him along with Jinbei and Ivankov, and escape before the Marines even realize what hit them.
And because Ace is freed early, the entire Marineford War just never happens. Whitebeard survives. Blackbeard never steals his second devil fruit. So instead of experiencing the absolute soul-crushing devastation of losing your brother, you just safely reunite with your crew. You know the new world is still no joke, so you wisely decide to spend 2 years safely training your crew alongside Rayleigh on Rusukaina. Cruising into the new world after the time skip, you are literally an unstoppable force. At Dressrosa, there's no massive, desperate struggle. You absolutely obliterate Doflamingo instantly in Gear 5. When you show up at Zoo, you casually swat Jack off the giant elephant into the sea like a fly. And when you find out Big Mom threatens Sanji's mentor Zeph, you don't run, you challenge her head-on, defeat her in a one-on-one battle, and become a recognized emperor early. You are just completely clearing the board, perfectly shielding your crew from any real danger.
Which brings us to the final act, the tragic Wano finale, and your ultimate downfall.
Up to this point, everything has gone flawlessly, right? You've protected everyone, you've won every fight. So you arrive at Wano feeling completely invincible, totally unaware of the fatal mistake you've been making this entire journey. You immediately jump into a one-on-one clash with Kaido over the Flower Capital. But remember, in your original timeline, Kaido was worn down by the scabbards and the supernovas before you truly faced him. Now, you're fighting a 100% fresh, fully rested Kaido. You can handle it, sure, but it's going to take a while. Meanwhile, you leave your crew to handle Kaido's strongest commanders, King, Queen, and the rest, just like they originally did.
But here is the absolutely devastating twist. 0. Your crew has exactly 0 extreme difficulty, near-death fights under their belts in this new timeline. Why? Because you constantly stepped in and fought all the hard battles for them. Sure, they trained with Raleigh, but they never once had to push past their absolute limits in the heat of true desperate combat.
Because they never had to scrape by against terrifying foes like Oars and Threllerbark or the CP9 assassins, their synergy and raw battle instincts are fundamentally weaker. Zoro is vastly outmatched by King's raw power and sheer experience, and as Zoro falls, the domino effect begins. The rest of your completely untested crew begins to crumble in sheer panic. Their defenses shatter. They don't know how to rely on each other when their backs are truly against the wall, because you never let their backs touch the wall.
Seeing this absolute nightmare unfold below you, you are utterly terrified for your friends. You rush down to save Zoro, completely abandoning your high-stakes battle with Kaido. But by turning your back on an Emperor of the Sea, you leave yourself wide open to a lethal attack. Kaido strikes, and just like that, the journey ends. Not in a blaze of glory, but in an abrupt, tragic defeat for your entire crew.
So it leaves us with this haunting final thought to take away from this explainer. You fixed every mistake, you erased every tragedy, and you took all the pain onto your own shoulders. But in doing so, you stunted your crew's growth. Was the painful near-death struggle of your original timeline, the tears, the crushing defeats, those moments of utter desperation, was that the most important part of the journey all along? Because without the struggle, is there really any strength? And that, my friends, is the true tragedy of the New Game Plus.